UFO sightings number in the tens of thousands, but more rare are encounters with beings inside a craft. These events, when documented by legitimate third parties like the military, add credence to the hypothesis that some UFOs are piloted machines. One such encounter comes buried in files of the Royal New Zealand Air Force. They're so deep, few have heard the story that involves a farmer, metallic disc, humanoids in shiny suits, a bright green beam of light, and a cover-up. We're a new channel covering declassified files. Subscribe to join us. July 13th, 1959. A woman calls in frantically to the police station in Blenheim, New Zealand. Quote, "You may think that I am mad, but I saw a flying saucer about 5:40 a.m. this morning. I was walking from the house to the cowshed, and when going across the paddock, I noticed a green glow in the cloud, and then all at once a round thing came down into view with two green lights like eyes pointing to the ground. The light lit up the surrounding meadow in an eerie bright green. Realizing this felt wrong, she ran through her cows to a tree line near the meadow and continued looking, roughly 40 meters away from the craft. It had, she said, something like two elevator belts, one going one way and one the other. As it came down, there were two men in it, and one stood up and leaned forward. He was silvery colored. He shone all over." Declassified files give this sketch of what the woman, Eileen Moreland, saw. The craft continued to hover 10 meters off the ground. She described it as having jets a bright orange color with green centers. The top of the object had a dome which contained the human-sized silhouettes. The suits folded when the beings moved, and they wore helmets like divers, she said. In statements later given, Moreland described their clothing like glistening chainmail. The helmets were big and covered their shoulders. After a few minutes, the object made a whistling sound, rotated, and a wave of hot air hit her. The craft rose upward at a slight angle and disappeared into the clouds above. The air now smelled of hot pepper, she said. For its part, the New Zealand government took this seriously. A physician found a few blisters on her hands, lips, and shoulders, but other medical records remained sealed. A month later, the nearby Air Force station penned a confidential memo. It wrote one lieutenant spent considerable private time looking into it and was convinced she was a genuine witness. The government also decided to raise classification of the incident. We'll see why in a minute. After looking through the document trail, the full story looks to have been withheld from the press for several decades. Interestingly, records show Moreland even had a second sighting a year after the first, but it remains entirely redacted, they say, for privacy reasons. On the 20-year anniversary, a journalist wrote the Secretary of Defense requesting access. The SOD drafted a response stating they could not, due to confidentiality reasons. But a handwritten note asks, are the assurances of confidentiality of a personal kind? If so, we should say so. Otherwise, it looks like another cover-up. This question was answered by an internal memo written to the Secretary the next day. Quote, "The only time Mrs. Moreland was given an assurance of confidentiality was in relation to an alleged second sighting in March 1960. Regarding the July 1959 event, it writes, she was not, underlined not, given a personal assurance of confidentiality. Rather, she was told by the investigating officer to keep her information to herself." The memo also explains, the classification was raised after she claimed a man had landed and shouted at her in a foreign language. The investigating officer thought the words might have been Russian with 2 exclamation points. No more details on this element of the encounter are public, and apparently there was no reason to withhold information, but here's what happened next. 3 days later, the secretary wrote back, restating the original excuse. These assurances were of a personal nature, a desire to keep our word. A word the Air Force emphatically stated internally didn't exist. Maybe this was a mistake. Or something more nefarious. But the journalist later wrote he believed a fib stopped his request. The excuse was also used in responses to a UFOologist and MUFON when they requested information. And to this day, some files remain classified. There may be additional medical records and details of the second sighting. We have no information on what caused her wounds, or if she experienced any missing time. And other than the handwritten memo, there's no information on any face-to-face interaction with the beings. There's something else curious here. Others in the area back up what she saw. This handwritten note suggests an Air Force person could corroborate the encounter, though no other mention is public. Another report says on the same morning as Moreland's first sighting, a man living 3 miles away saw a bright light through his window. He called it greeny. Another neighbor reports a very bright light traveling south just after Moreland said it took off. Perhaps this is one reason the lieutenant believed her. There was corroboration. Moreland spoke to J. Allen Hynek when he visited the country, and he was apparently very impressed. Subsequent interviews would discover she had developed mysterious brown patches on her skin. An interview with researchers Brian and Phyllis Dickerson pulled more details from the witness. The craft was described as gray and metallic, with 2 rows of lights that moved in opposite directions when hovering. When it moved, both rows fired. She guessed the figures inside the dome were about 5 feet in height. Their suits were skin tight, and their helmets were strangely shoulder to shoulder. So, what was the craft doing in that field? And do you think there's more to the story than is public? Let us know in the comments below. We want to give a special thank you to our Patreon supporters, including RMG. Without you guys, this would not be possible. If you enjoy our channel and want to support our production of 1 episode a week, join us on Patreon. It really helps us out. Thanks, and see you next time.